All right, thank you for joining us here. So, this is what we're going to talk about today, right? So, the market has shifted at the end of the day, right? And here's what sellers need to do differently, all right? If you're a homeowner and you know, you're thinking, should I sell now or should I wait this out? This video is for you, all right? The market it hasn't crashed, but it definitely has shifted. And sellers who don't adjust, they're paying for it, right? So welcome to this one. All right, so let's go with what we're talking about here, right? So you how do we begin, right? So first of all, type shift in the comments if you've noticed that homes are sitting longer on the market, right? Again, the market hasn't crashed, it's shifted. And the biggest mistake I see right now is sellers using an old playbook, an old market playbook, an old market playbook in a new market, right? What worked in 2021 and early 2022 doesn't automatically work today. And pretending that nothing has changed, well, that's how homes end up sitting, you know? So definitely comment aware if you feel the market is different than it was a few years ago. All right. So let's get into it a little bit. Okay. So let's understand what's different to help you win in this new landscape. Right. So what's actually changed? Okay. Well, here's a few things. Number one, buyers are more cautious than they have been in the past. Okay. They they are able to do they're able to do deeper research than ever before, right? Like I've said before, we're not gatekeepers of information at all, right? At the end of the day, it's available everywhere, whether it's on Google, whether it's on AI, whether they have AI bots doing the research for them. The information is there, and they have that information before they even excuse me, they have that information before they even make an offer. So they're already well informed, right? And the they're more cautious because interest rates are affecting their psychology. The news reports, what are they called? Headlines. There's a lot of things that that they're impacted by, and it's on a day-to-day basis. And we have to, as real estate professionals, we have to learn how to handle that. Now, what else has changed? Well, days on market, homes are taking longer to sell, so preparation and pricing, they matter more than ever, right? And negotiations are back. So this is a skill market when we talk about the type of representation that you should hire, as far as dealing with an agent that is familiar with this. Now, a lot of new agents, it's funny to see now, but they're a little concerned by how things have changed since they got into the business. Since they got into the business, there was a time where things flew off the shelves when there was no need to script practice, there was no need to practice dialogues, there was no need to really study how to sell a property or how to negotiate or how to make your property stand out after it's been on the market for a while. So they get more nervous than others, right? They're not used to days on market. They're used to putting it on the market, putting on MLS, praying that somebody else sells it, and boom, it happens. So that's one of the things that really a lot, right? And negotiations are back. That doesn't mean buyers disappeared. At the end of the day, it means that they became more selective, right? So, um, you know, drop a little eye emoji if you're watching buyer behavior more closely than you have before. Because again, they haven't disappeared, they're just more selective, Now, there's also something else that changed, and what that is more inventory, which means that your home actually needs to truly stand out from the crowd. So that's where being a digital marketer, that's where understanding the psychology of what buyers are looking for, how to make a standout online, having a strong digital presence, making sure that we're not taking cell phone pictures and posting pictures on MLS that are upside down or sideways. We're trying to put a very well put together package to make sure that your home stands out from others. Whether that's the type of marketing that we do. Some homes you want to do a little more of the drone footage. You want to do more of, the gimbal walkthrough. And at the end of the day, use more of our social media feeds to encourage more eyeballs, more ways of making your home stand out. That's what we're trying to do at the end of the day, right? So keep all those things in mind. Now, I get, there's so many schools of thought when it comes to this, but let me tell you what hasn't changed, right? At the end of the day, people still need homes, right? That's one of the main reasons I got into this business, right? At the end of the day, people need to live somewhere, right? And what happens is, yes, different things, you have to make your home stand out and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, people need to move somewhere, right? So what most people miss is that well-priced, well-presented homes are still selling. Serious buyers still exist. Motivated sellers, they're still winning. The market still rewards clarity and strategy, right? Comment facts if that makes sense to you. So, it's something that we really have to keep in mind, right? Life events continue. So you have families that are growing, people relocating, buyers that are actively looking out there. And then when it comes to the well-priced home scenario, again, people have access to a lot of information, right? So they know the comparable sales. They see, they're looking at your neighbors that are also on the market, and and your neighbors are competing with you, right? Whether it's price, whether it's condition, so on. And then buyers are also looking for value, just like you did when you first looked for a home. So they're expanding their search. They're looking at nearby neighborhoods. They're looking at different blocks. They're also looking at what, bang for their buck. How much of the property are they getting compared to yours, right? And you know, the main thing that you have to keep in mind is, instead of reaching for the moon and the stars when it comes to price, properties that are aligned with market realities, those are the ones that are attracting, serious buyers and that are attracting competitive offers, right? And at the end of the day, good marketing works. So again, that professional presentation, that strategic exposure still is what drives results at the end of the day. All right. So now, the number one mistake that sellers are making right now that I see is that they're overpricing just to test the market, right? And testing the market today usually means, unfortunately, teaching buyers what's wrong with your home, right? Well, momentum is everything. Once it's gone, it's really hard to get back. That is a universal truth that has been in real estate since before I was in it. I've heard of this throughout my career, and we're back in that market where that is really true. You want to take advantage of those first 3 weeks and really try to, get the highest and best offer that you can for your home there. Sometimes the first offer is the best offer you get. So don't be afraid of that, and make sure you rely on the expertise of the agent that's representing you in order to really maximize your home sale, and to lessen the days on market, and to really get the best possible offer that this market's going to bear for you, right? So comment honest if you've seen price reductions happening more often. You can look online, you can see that some are really, really getting, struck down left and right. But at the end of the day, if you price it right from the beginning, things go smoother, right? If you're overpricing based on past market peaks, it costs you time, it costs you money, and it costs you the best buyers. Like I said, sometimes the first one could be the best one. The homes that are priced 5 to 10% above market value, they sit longer, and ultimately they sell for less. And they give you more stress. You feel like there's something wrong with your home. You feel like, things are not really moving along the way they should. You can get sometimes upset with your agent, upset with the market, upset with the buyers. You just, overall, the experience is not as rewarding as if you do it correctly from the beginning. If you price within, let's say 5 to 10% below market value, depending on the market that you're in your neighborhood, or right at the competitive price of the market, right? It rewards the market at the end of the day, it rewards accuracy, not optimism. Like I always say, hope is not a strategy, and that is very true when it comes to real estate, right? So, that's what testing the market does. It ends up really backfiring at the end of the day. So don't test. Go in with a plan and go in with accuracy, right? So what are smart sellers that are what are they doing differently, right? That's what you want to be. You want to be a smart seller in today's marketplace, right? So what are they doing? They're doing three things differently, right? Number one, they're pricing for momentum, not ego. We keep on going back to that statement, but we understand that your home is a large investment. We understand that you put a lot of sacrifice into it, a lot of work into it, and there's a lot of love and there's memories and a lot of things that go into it, right? You might have renovated, you really love what you did to the place, but you instead of keeping that ego like, oh, I put so much work, so much effort into this, you really have to price for the realities of the market. And the momentum, again, is the important thing. The ego is, that feeling of like, well, I'm right. This is my price. This is the way it should be. But, we want to make sure to take the emotion out of it, right? So they're preparing strategically versus emotionally, right? They're taking the emotion out of it. They're demanding a real marketing plan, because today strategy, it matters more than timing. Timing is everything in life, but when it comes to this, if you don't strategize, if you don't do the right thing from the beginning, that's where we have an issue. So if you want to sell smart, comment smart, right? Now, some other things that they're doing differently. They're working with agents who analyze current comps, not last year's numbers. They're preparing like professionals themselves. They're investing in staging, in repairs, and curb appeal before the listing. Some are even doing what we call pre-listing inspection, where they actually hire an inspector to go through the home as if, the same way that a buyer would do. And the inspector will tell them all the things that could be wrong with the home that they can take care of before it's even on the market to prevent those issues from coming up during an inspection with a buyer, from additional negotiation or additional disappointment. So they're doing that before, right? Again, pricing strategically, setting that price that creates urgency and that attracts multiple showings is essential, and they market aggressively. So that is what we're here to do, right? We use the professional photography, video tours, and we use targeted digital campaigns. It's night and day. If you guys go online, you guys can scroll through all these different sites and you see the difference. The difference is tremendous. And trust me, even if you took yourself out of the equation and you thought for a second, let's make believe I'm a buyer. Let me look through 10 homes in the same area. And you can look at the different marketing that people do, and you can see why some homes, not only is the pricing a problem, but the way that it's marketed, it's really not standing out. You have dark pictures, you have pictures that are out of order, you have not enough pictures, you have where that they just did, like a drive-by photo shoot. They didn't take the time to really tell the story of the property, and that's a huge mistake, right? Now, pricing plus marketing plus negotiation. That, pricing creates interest. Marketing creates urgency. And then negotiation is what protects your bottom line, which is what you want. You want to know what you're walking away with. You want to make sure that you're getting top dollar in the marketplace, right? And, when we're looking at these things, right, pricing for momentum, not ego. So week one is you list the market value, you're getting the maximum showings, you're getting higher, buyer interest. Weeks 2 to 3, momentum is continuing to build off each other. That's where the multiple offers come in, the competitive bidding, and then the result, you're selling at or above asking, and you have minimum days on market. The longer the home sits on the market, the worse for everybody, right? And overpricing, again, by 10%, fewer showings, price reductions that could signal desperation, especially when they continue to just, chop, 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 chop at the number to get to that market value, which you would have saved so much time and effort and money at the beginning, right? Marketing, it's a now strategy, it's not a checkbox, right? We talked about the professional media, the digital reach, the first impressions, and then negotiation power. So there is a new reality, right? Negotiation has shifted, right? You have, before, now let me preface this. You can't paint all of New York with a single broad brush, right? You can talk about how before it used to be a seller's market. So let's take the clock back a few years, right? And you have it where it was insanity. Okay, interest rates were slashed to historic lows. You had more buyers than ever, or I can't say more than ever, but more buyers in the buyer pool that qualified for a mortgage. And then you had very limited inventory. And limited inventory has been before, the 2020 season and throughout, right? You had multiple offers within days. You had buyers waiving all types of contingencies, whether it was inspections, appraisals. People were buying sight unseen. Above asking prices were very common. You had open house lines that were 60 to 100 people deep, and there was, limited negotiation was needed on the seller's part, right? Now in more of a balanced market, again, you can't paint this with a broad brush. So you have to make sure when you're speaking to your agent about, you know, what's going on in your marketplace, they can tell you which one of this it is, right? So basically, if you think about it, there's a thing called absorption rate. So absorption rate is if you take all of the homes that are currently on the market and you were to sell them, how quickly would that sell? I'm dumbing this down a bit, but basically, if let's say in one area you have only, if nothing else came on the market, right, and you had 6 months of inventory, that would be a balanced market. If you go under 6 months of inventory, where there's only, like, if no other home hit the market today, you only have under 6 months of inventory, then you're in a seller's market. If you have over 6 months of inventory, now you have a surplus of inventory, so you're skewing more towards a buyer's market, right? In more of a balanced market, if we can kind of average out what's going on throughout New York, you have sellers markets, you have buyers markets, and then you have a little bit of a balanced market, right? With the more skewing towards the balanced market, buyers can take their time, right? There's a little more inventory. Before that, let's say there were 4 or 3 months worth of inventory. Now there's, let's say 6.5, right? I don't have the exact numbers of this month, but I can give you those another time. So now it's skewing back. Now there's got to be negotiation, right? Buyers can take their time. They're looking at options, right? I just had this happen. We had some buyers that were interested in our listing, but they want to look at other options. I get it. That's a normal market to me. That's how I got into the game, right? Contingencies are back. So now appraisals, inspections, some people that are buying and they have their home under contract. So they got, it's contingent upon the sale of their home. Then there's contingencies on the seller aspect, right? Because they have limited inventory to go to. So it could be that they're selling their home contingent on them finding a place, right? It goes both ways. Inspection requests are more expected. Again, so inspections here in New York they're very, very recommended for buyers, right? They give you a list of everything that's possibly wrong with the home, and then you have options. You have it for your own knowledge, and you have it for asking for repairs or credits from the seller, depending on what's wrong. We're not talking about, cosmetic things. We're talking about structural issues that really need attention. And at the end of the day, flexibility is what's going to end up helping you win the deal on the buyer side, on the seller side. So be prepared to negotiate on repairs, on closing costs, on timelines. That's where things are different. It's not that you have the upper hand across the board if you're a seller anymore. In some areas, absolutely. But you have to make sure that you have those three things working together, right? Whether it's, the pricing, the marketing, the negotiation. When you have those three working together, that's where you can make some magic happen. So selling today, it's not passive. It's an intentional activity. So come and plan if you want to understand your options, right? So again, the market has shifted, but sellers who adapt they are winning. If you have the right advisor, right, you're ahead of the game, right? One of the things that I heard the other day, and I've been saying it on the last few videos that I've made, is people now, there's a ton of information. You guys know that, whether it's Google, whether it's AI, whether it's books, whether you're a big time reader, whether it's articles, whether it's newspapers, magazines, what have you, people that you know in your life, plenty of information. What people are hungering for is not information. Their hunger is for wisdom. And that's what we try to bestow upon our clients, is the wisdom that we have through all of the experiences that we've had in the past, right? And through our own study and through us filtering all the information and disseminating it to the correct ways, right? So if you team up with someone that can guide you to adapt, that has adapted, that has seen this market before, or that can at least navigate this market confidently, right? At Keller Williams, we have an incredible advantage where even new people that are in the business, they can go to the other agents in the brokerage and ask them for guidance. So you have that experience, that wisdom vicariously through your agent, right? So make sure you hire somebody that you're comfortable with. But if you're even considering selling this year or next year, the next 16 to 18 to 24 months, clarity is going to be your biggest advantage. So don't rely on all the headlines, don't rely on the news, don't rely on all those things that can, interfere with what's really going on and that can actually guide you in the wrong direction. Get professional advice. It is super, super, super important. And now, you know, again, preparation matters. Accuracy with pricing matters, right? So when you're preparing, make sure that there's as minimal issues with the property as possible from day one. When it comes to accuracy, we're talking about pricing from day one. Capture that key buyer's interest. When it comes to marketing, have that agent, show you their marketing plan, tell you what they're going to do, show you what they're going to do, because that strategic exposure is what's getting your home in front of serious qualified buyers and can help make that so much easier. And partnership, again, that's where we were just talking about, working with an agent who understands the current market dynamics and who adapts accordingly and helps you adapt. It is mission critical to have that team in place. I learned that from one of my mentors in this business. She kept on talking about having a team in place, and it's really true. So if you don't have the right attorney, you don't have the right inspector, you don't have the right agent, you don't have the right lender, let's say, depending on which part of the scenario you're in. If you don't have that team in place, more things can go wrong. When you have the right team in place, when you have a combined experience level with all those years of experience and with all those deals together, you can make it so much easier on yourself by having that team ready before it all begins, you know? So if you're even considering it, comment sell and I'll reach out to you. Or to make it even more private, just DM me or text me at 917-982-8899, or feel free to talk to me and text me or DM me plan, and I'll make sure to reach out to you and set some time apart so we can actually go through your individual scenario. At the end of the day, this is not about pressure. This is about information. This is about, again, empowering you with the wisdom, with the experience that we've had as agents. So we talked about the mistakes. We talked about how you could, do better, how you can be prepared, how you can get in there. So the first thing you want to do is get a current market analysis. So understand what your home is worth today, not again what it was worth last year or last month, or try to compare it to your neighbors. Knowledge is power in this market, but the correct knowledge, right? And again, the market has changed. Opportunity has not disappeared. Sellers who adapt to the strategy, who adapt their strategy to today's reality, are achieving exceptional results. The key is working with data. It's working with an experienced agent, with an experienced team, and not not assumptions, because you know what assuming does, what it makes out of you and me. So if you're ready to make a move, let's create a winning strategy together, to really get your home sold and to maximize the value of your home. We can have that meeting, that conversation from the very beginning, and that way there are no surprises. You know, some surprises are good in life, but not knowing if you're gonna not knowing if you're getting top dollar, if you're doing the right thing, that's not what you need. You know, at the end of the day, you really need to have a professional in place that can guide you through everything we just talked about, right? It's really important. I can't stress that enough. I've seen many people make mistakes in the past, and I really don't want you to be one of them. So, if you have any questions at all, if this is something that you think would be beneficial to someone else, please feel free to send this over to them, or again, reach out to me and pass along their info, and I'll make sure to reach out to them and make you proud of the referral. Because at the end of the day, that's how I've built my reputation. That's how I built my business, is by doing right. That's how I sleep well at night. That's how I'm able to really make an impact. And it's all thanks to you guys. So I hope that this was, informational. I hope that you got a lot out of it. And please excuse how things were set up and how things are moving. We're trying different ways of doing things this year. I told you I was going to go crazy on the content, and I really am. We have a plan in place. This was, a really fun exercise, and we go on to the next one, right? We will have more this week. Be careful with the snowstorm coming up, and if you guys have any questions, your boy's here. You know where to find me. You want to read up a little bit more on me, about me, go to sellyourqueenshome.com. You want to see more of my videos, more of the tips, more of the tricks, more of the ways that we're teaching people to navigate the market that they're in, or even go back and you can see videos that I talked about even back when things were changing the first time around in my career. Get to know me a little bit and understand that I am actually here for you. This is not a one and done thing for me. This is my career. I treat this with respect, with care, and I treat all my clients like family. So, I promise to do the same thing for you. So thank you very much for your time. I truly, truly appreciate it, and I'll catch you on the next one. Have a good night, or day, or morning, or evening, or afternoon. See ya.